I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight to our Farm to Fork event. And this event has started 10 years ago. This is our 10th anniversary. And the purpose of a Farm to Fork is to bring together our urban and rural sectors so that you can discuss and talk about some of the issues that ag has and urban has, and that we can also highlight agriculture to the urban population, what's available in the county, how many farms we have, and why it's worth saving and protecting them, because they're dwindling away from us, we've found over the years. So this event is and we're at a grand venue. This is probably one of the best venues that we could ever have for a Farm to Fork dinner. It's a working farm, a working family. They still make their living off the farm. So it is really great to be here and to bring in our citizens from Campbell County to enjoy the bounties that we produce here in the county. So we thank everyone for coming tonight.
I'm Kevin Neltner here with Neltner Farm. We're hosting the Farm to Fork dinner this year. It was a real honor to host it. It gets a lot of people out to the farm. We're in our 5th year as a wedding venue and event center. So it's just really neat to get people out to a working farm to see how life really is out on the farm.
I'd like to welcome you all to the 10th anniversary of our Farm to Fork dinner. And this is kind of a big deal for us. We've been doing these for 10 years, and it was originated back in 2008, for those who can't do the math. And it started with the Farmland Work Group. And the Farmland Work Group was formed as a committee of the Campbell County Conservation District, and it was formed back actually in 2003. And this event has been an opportunity for us to bring together both the rural and urban population together to see what we as farmers can give you and what we have on our farms that are actually very close for your food needs if you need food. Because everything tonight we consume has been harvested here in Campbell County. So I think that's a pretty neat thing to have that kind of ability to feed our citizens without going miles and miles to find it. But anyway, the Farmland Work Group was formed back, like I say, in 2003, and it's made up of all the commodity groups here in the county. It's also made up with the Cooperative Extension Service. It's also made up of the Campbell County Farm Bureau. We also have the Campbell County Fiscal Court involved. We also have the Campbell County Planning Commission. So we've come a long way since 2003. And of course, last but not least, is the citizens that are involved in our meetings, the citizens at large that we take input from. So it's a good cross-section of our county citizens, and we get a lot of really neat ideas on how to preserve and protect our farms, and this was one of them. So I hope you enjoy the bounties that we all bring forth here this evening. As an urban-rural county, it's important to all citizens, not only farmers, but our urban citizens and local leadership of the county, to help support and preserve our existing farms. In 1940, we had 1,292 farms in Campbell County. By the year 2012, which is the last census data that we have, it had dropped to 504 farms. So we were concerned that we were losing farms and farmland at a pretty good clip. So we put together and worked with our cooperators programs to both educate our urban population and also our farmers, because they had to start looking at ways, especially with the loss of the tobacco in the county, ways to keep their farms economically viable. So it's important that you as citizens, whoever you are, both farm and urban, support farms by visiting them and buying their products that they have. So it's, I think, in a way, and I'm kind of very fortunate to live in a county where everything is so close to us, especially the rural part of it. And I find that very, you know, for me and what I've done. I mean, we took our farm from a traditional cattle farm, and now we're doing grapes and wine. So that's about as far 180 as you could get. And but it pays the bills, it keeps the family on the farm, gives opportunities to our family, also gives opportunity to the youth to come and work on our farm. So it's been the transition. Has been long and hard, but we persevere. That's the farmer in us. We just put our head down and do it. So with that said, like I said, within the county, you have many opportunities for food options. You have farm-raised beef, you have eggs, you have pork, fruits and vegetables, baked goods, and last but not least is wine, which is what we do. Actually, there's seven wineries in this county. I mean, we're almost in Napa Valley. Almost. Keyword almost. But we have, you know, that is where farms have gone to keep farming. So agritourism has become a big issue here in Campbell County. Believe it or not, with 7 wineries and all the ag tourism that's available on a lot of the farms that I just mentioned, what they do, we're bringing in tourists. We're bringing in people from not only all over the United States, but we're bringing in people from all over the world. I've never been so surprised in my life to have Ukrainian policemen in my winery having a good time. You know, I go, how in the world do you hear about us? You know, and I have to thank the mayor, I think, or the police chief of Alexandria for that one. But it was a unique experience, something I wouldn't have ever, you know, raising cows and corn, I would have never experienced. So it's been unique for me also and our family. So anyway, it's been a great ride. And like I said, I think we're fortunate to live in a county where we have all the food available that's homegrown. We know where our food comes because the farm families eat it themselves, so they're not going to give you something that's bad. You can pretty much count on that. And here's the best part. And to get away from it all is only a few hours down the road. So with that, I welcome you this evening. I do want to mention the family, the Neltner family, whose venue we are at tonight. This is, actually they're an inspiration. They're a family that's been able to adapt, support their families. This is they don't work off the farm, this is it. They go to work right here every day. And we appreciate Kevin and his family for allowing us to be here tonight. And maybe later on, Kevin will get an opportunity to talk about what he does and how he's changed over the years to keep the farm viable. But that's what it takes. It takes support. When we change venues, it takes support from the community to keep us going. And in our case, I think the support has been great from our community, and we all appreciate that. So with that, I guess the only thing between dinner is me and the blessing. So we'll get Mr. Paul Schaefer up here, give the invocation.
Bow your heads with me and allow me the liberty of a prayerful reading of the 104th Psalm. Let all that I am praise the Lord. O Lord my God, how great you are. You are robed with honor and majesty. You are dressed in a robe of light. You stretch out the starry curtain of the heavens. You lay out the rafters of your home in the rain clouds. You make the clouds your chariot. You ride upon the wings of the wind. The winds are your messengers, flames of fire are your servants. You placed the world on its foundation so it would never be moved. You clothed the earth with floodwaters, water that covered even the mountains. And at your command the water fled. At the sound of your thunder it hurried away. Mountains rose and valleys sank to the levels you decreed. Then you set a firm boundary for the seas so that they would never again cover the earth. You make springs pour water to the ravens, so streams gush down from the mountains. They provide water for all the animals, and the wild donkeys quench their thirst. The birds nest beside the streams and sing among the branches of the trees. You send rain on the mountains from your heavenly home, and you fill the earth with the fruit of your labor. You cause grass to grow for the livestock and plants for people to use. You allow them to produce food from the earth, wine to make them glad, olive oil to soothe their skin, and bread to give them strength. The trees of the Lord are well cared for, the cedars of Lebanon that are planted. There the birds make their nest, and the storks make their homes in the cypress. High in the mountains live the wild goats, and the rocks form a refuge. You made the moon and mark the seasons, and the sun knows when to set. You send the darkness, and it becomes light. When all the forest animals prowl about, then the young lions roar for their prey, stalking the food provided by God. At dawn, they sink back into their dens for rest. Then people go off to their work, where they labor until evening. O Lord, what a variety of things you have made. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. Here is in the ocean, the vast and wide, teeming with life of every kind, both large and small. See the ships along with the Leviathan, which you made to play in the sea. They all depend on you to give them food as they need. When you supply it, they gather it. You open your hand to feed them, and they are richly satisfied. But if you turn away from them, then they panic. When you take away their breath, they die and turn again to dust. When you give them your breath, life is created, and you renew the face of the earth. May the glory of the Lord continue forever. The Lord takes pleasure in all he has made. The earth trembles at his glance, the mountains smoke at his touch. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will praise my God with my last breath. May all my thoughts be pleasing to him, for I rejoice in the Lord. Let all sinners vanish from the face of the earth. Let the wicked disappear forever. Let all them that I praise the Lord, praise the Lord. Our Father in heaven, you are holy. We pray that your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We ask, dear Lord, and thank you for our daily bread, Jesus Christ, and we ask now that you bless this food that we are about to take. We ask, dear Heavenly Father, that it give us strength to do your work. Bless those, dear Lord, that have tended to your creation. Bless them with the fruits of their labor, and may they always trust in you. And may this food tonight bring honor and glory to you, and this gathering tonight bring honor and glory to you. Protect us from all evil and deliver us from all harm. For yours is the kingdom and the glory and the power forever. Amen.
All right, Amy is captain of the tables tonight. When she comes to your table, we will get up and go through the barn door there, into the chow line, and back out the upper door and back to your seat. So that's the flow of things. So when you see the captain, you know it's time to go. Our next speaker is a member of the FFA. I think Jake's actually the vice president of the chapter of the FFA. You see these young people tonight waiting at tables and serving the drinks. They're our FFA people. And I can't say enough about FFA. Jake actually worked for me this summer, and I'm really high on him, and he may know it, but I think he's an outstanding young man. He personifies FFA, I think, my perception of it, and I think everyone else's perception of it. He is a hard worker. He is a take charge guy, and he not only gets his job done, but he makes sure everybody else around him got their job done. So Jake kind of spoiled me, and I'm hoping he comes back next year to work for me. He's doing a lot of schoolwork now, and he's got high ambitions, and I wish him well. But Jake will be our next speaker, so give him a big hand.
Thank you, Dennis. Good evening. My name is Jacob Lippert, and I'm the Vice President of Campbell County FFA Chapter. On behalf of my fellow officers and as well as other members of the Campbell County FFA, we would like to welcome and thank you for joining us for our Farm to Fork dinner this evening. I would like to also thank the Neltners for graciously hosting this great event at this beautiful location. Our goal is to preserve and promote agriculture in our county and state. With your help, we can preserve and promote our agriculture to show our community the importance of what our organization really does. To show them that we are not only cows, sows, and plows. As our FFA chapter grows, we try to incorporate as many events in the community as possible, as well as many leadership events as well, to grow ourselves as well as our chapter to make it better and bigger as time goes on. We would not be able to do many of our events if it wasn't for our supporters just like yourselves. Thank you for believing in the future of agriculture, and I ask you to keep supporting us as we grow and get bigger. And I would like also to thank you for attending this event tonight. We hope that you enjoy your evening. If you would like to support our chapter in the FFA, our table is back next under the lean-to, and we have sponsorship letters if you would be interested. Thank you.
Our next speaker this evening is Congressman Thomas Massie. He's taken time out of his busy schedule to come visit with us tonight, and we really appreciate that. He lives in Lewis County. He runs a cattle farm there. He lives in a house that he built himself. He has an engineering background, both mechanical and electrical, and so he built his own house. And it's solar powered, so he's kind of off the grid, and so he's basically one of us. He is a farmer, and we appreciate that. Thank you. But he went to school at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He got a degree in engineering, mechanical and electrical. He started a company, I guess, while he was at MIT. To do with communicating computers with touch, and eventually he sold his company, moved back to Lewis County, didn't like policy and practice there, and decided to take charge. Didn't plan on being a politician, but he wound up being one. So he became judge executive of the county from 2011 to 2012. And so he decided to take his ideas a little further and ran and won the 4th congressional seat as our representative. So he's decided to stop in here tonight and give us a handle of what's going on. Hopefully good things for ag, but give a hand for Representative, U.S. Representative.
Thank you, Dennis. I don't know how long he wants me to speak. He turned the microphone off, but this was an easy decision to take this meeting when there's this kind of food involved, local food. You know, if it wasn't hard enough to find help on your farm, It's a lot harder now that the economy's booming. We passed some tax cuts and lowered some regulations. But I want to tell you about my struggles of trying to find some help on my farm. It started out when I decided to run for Congress. I decided to start this endeavor in January, in the middle of the winter, and I had about 30 head of cattle at the time to feed. And I thought back, you know, I've been feeding these cattle for 8 years myself. And I remember back to my first date with my wife. I came to her house, which is the farm we live on now, and I asked her parents where she was, and they said she's feeding cattle. So I thought we were getting ready to go to the movies, but she had to feed the cattle first. So I asked my wife, right when I started running for Congress, I said, honey, would you feed the cattle? I know you know how to run this tractor because when you were 16, you were running this tractor, but I've never seen you run it. So she said, okay, I'll feed the cattle. So I go out on a trail. It was a whirlwind, 2 weeks here and there. I'd come home at night. I couldn't see the cattle. And I'd leave in the morning before the sun came up, and I just assumed everything was okay. And then I came home in the daylight and saw half the cattle were gone. She said, I remembered how to hook up the trailer, too. So she decided if she had half as many cattle, she would have to feed half as much. The other problem I've had working on the farm, my son, this is my third child, when he turned 16, he got his driver's license. And he'd been working for me on the farm since he was 10. I mean, this kid's 16. He can run a backhoe, he can run a tractor, he can run a bulldozer, he can hook up any attachment. He knows what to put diesel in, what to put gasoline in, and where to put it. Really helpful kid. So I've been paying him $10 an hour. I thought, you know, cash, that's fair wage for a 16-year-old. Well, he said I wasn't a good boss. He didn't like working for Dad. I wasn't really skilled in the ways of managing him. So he decided he was going to get a job off of the farm because he had a driver's license. So he took a job making $8.53 an hour working construction 2 hours from the house up in Chillicothe, Ohio. Well, it rained half the time, so he comes home with a paycheck that's instead of $10 an hour, it's $8.53. But he found out they take your federal withholding, your state withholding, your local taxes, your FICA, all that stuff's taken out of the check that I didn't take out of it. So my wife took him to the bank to cash his first check. He was so proud of that first paycheck. And she looked at it, she said, you'd made a lot more money working for your dad. Are you ready to go back to work for your dad? And he took the paycheck back and he pointed to the federal withholding. He said, Dad's working for me now. So that's my experience trying to get help on the farm. And I would say that resident family farmers are the best conservationists we have. I mean, which farmer wants to wreck the family farm? I don't know a single one. They want to leave it in a better condition than they found it when they inherited it or bought it, as we did from my wife's parents. And it would be a shame if you didn't, really. And the rest of the family would know it. So I always say that the best conservationists in the world are resident family farmers. And so that's been my struggle on the farm, is to figure out a way that it can be profitable. And that's why I applaud the Neltners here. This is an amazing, by the way, thank you to our hosts. Can we give them a round of applause? There's a big move toward local food and local things. When I built my house, as Dennis said, I decided to use stones off the farm. And I had neighbors come by and they said, boy, you know, we were laying up the walls for the outside of the house with local stone. And they said, what are you going to seal that with? And I said, seal it? Yeah, don't you think you should seal those stones? I said, they were laying here in the woods for a few hundred years before I picked them up, and they're the same shape. But there was the impression that if you didn't go to Lowe's and buy it, or if you didn't get it from 3 states over, that the stone wouldn't be good enough. So we built our house with our own stone and our own timber. We got a Woodminster sawmill. But I want to ask you all, how many of you have cut your own fence posts at one point or another? You got a few over here? Yeah, see. Now, here's the question. I want to take a poll. How many used locust and how many used cedar? All right, locust first. All right. How many of you use cedar posts? All right. So we got some cedar post folks and some locust post folks. Here's what the owner of the Big Barn Farm Store, who's 3 miles from my house, told me. This is a secret of life. Lewis County is a big county. On the east side of the county, black locust grows. And on the west side of the county, you got cedar everywhere. So on the west side of the county, they want to use locust posts because they don't have any locust trees and they think their cedar's not good enough. And on the east side of the county, everybody wants to buy the cedar posts, and you can't sell a locust post because everybody's got locust trees. They must not be any count if they grow on your farm. And so that's been sort of the thinking that if you're going to, it's got to be exotic or it's got to be foreign if it's going to be good, but people are starting to realize the best food that you can find is right there growing on your neighbor's farm. So that's been a really encouraging movement that I've seen from consumers. Okay, everybody that's always lived on a farm would prefer home cooking to what you get in a restaurant, but consumers are starting to realize this. So I've got 3 bills in Congress to help small farmers, which is 2 more bills than anybody else in Congress has got to help small farmers. The first one I want to tell you about is one to make it easier to have your beef processed locally instead of going to a full-blown USDA facility. I got a beef processor 3 miles from my house. But most people can't afford to buy half a cow or a quarter a cow, which is what the federal regulations require. So I'm trying to create, call it a loophole, call it what you want. I'm trying to create a way for small farmers to use local processors, which you can go inspect. You can go see the processors at a clean facility. And if they're not, they get a pretty good reputation pretty quick and people know about it. So I think local's good. So I introduced this bill. It's called the Prime Act. Whether you got a hog or a sheep or, or a goat or a pig, you could use a local processor and sell this meat to your neighbor without having to sell them half an animal. And I wanted a sponsor in the Senate for the Prime Act. And I knew Rand Paul would be into this, but I didn't want Rand Paul. I wanted something exotic, something not from Kentucky. I didn't want local as my co-sponsor in the Senate. So I said, which senator's got the name that sounds like a hamburger? Senator Angus King is the co-sponsor, or he's the prime sponsor of the Prime Act in the Senate. He agreed to do it. Now, he caucuses with the Democrats. He runs as an independent. But what you will find is there aren't political lines on this local food movement. There aren't gender lines either. I mean, women care as much or more about this issue as men do, and Democrats care as much about the issue as Republicans do. So that's the thing about it. All of my bills, I can find a Democrat co-sponsor. And some of them, I've got more Democrat co-sponsors than I've got Republican co-sponsors. I've got one bill that it's pretty simple in theory, but a lot of people get hung up on it. This is what my bill says. If it's legal to sell raw milk in a state, and the states regulate this, whether you can sell it or not, and it's legal to sell it in another state, we will not arrest you for taking the raw milk from one state where it's legal to another state where it's legal. Sounds like a pretty simple idea, doesn't it? Well, the lobbyists came after me, the milk lobbyists. They didn't like my bill. In fact, they put out press releases that said kids would die, and there would be all these, and the blood would be on my hands. Now, my wife read these press releases. She's got Google Alerts, so it shows up on her phone before I even see it. The negative press does. And she saw all these negative press releases on my raw milk bill, and she texted me. She said, OMG, I didn't realize the lactose lobby was so intolerant. And they have been, but I've still got a lot of co-sponsors on this. The final bill that I wanted to tell you about, I have handed to Jamie Comer because he was really the pioneer here in Kentucky on this. And probably Warren will speak more about this later, but industrial hemp. And when I took this up in 2012, in 2013 was when I introduced the first industrial hemp bill that I've sponsored. There were a lot of, especially Republicans, who thought I was trying to legalize marijuana. And so I had to keep reminding them, this is rope, not dope. And I just kept saying that over and over, and I kept picking up co-sponsors. So when the Farm Bill came to the floor in 2013, there were two Democrats, Earl Blumenauer and Jared Polis, who came to me and said, we think if you run a version of your industrial hemp bill as an amendment to the Farm Bill, Jared Polis is a Democrat, but he's on the Rules Committee. He said, I think I can get this through the Rules Committee so that you can get a vote on the floor. And see, because industrial hemp is it's actually under the FDA and the DEA. It's not even under the USDA. So it wasn't even really germane to the Farm Bill, if you can imagine that. They could have ruled it out procedurally. But I trusted them, and we offered it as an amendment, and it was allowed, and we got a debate on the floor for it. And then that night, the vote was going to be the next day. The hemp lobby, who actually likes me, unlike the lactose lobby, who's intolerant, the hemp lobby called me up and said, you need to pull the amendment. Don't offer it. I said, why? They said, because it will fail. We think it will fail, and we think you'll set us back several years if it fails. So we'd rather not have a vote. And I said, well, there's two problems with that. I said, actually, there's more than two problems. But one, you got to have the vote to know who your friends are, because everybody's your friend until they have to cast a vote, and then you know where people stand. And so I said, even if we lose, it's a necessary requirement to know who's with us and who's against us, because they're all saying they're with you. So we need to have the vote. And the second problem with it is I've got two co-sponsors, and they're Democrats, and they don't want to pull the amendment either. So we had the vote the next day, and it passed. I think it shocked everybody. And then that became part, thanks to Senator McConnell. There was no Senate hemp amendment that year, but the Senate and the House had to conference the bill, and he put people on the conference committee who were friendly to industrial hemp. And so it came out of the final version of the Farm Bill on page like 650 somewhere. But anyways, I was excited about that, and that's what has enabled, along with Warren and Jamie Comer's tenacious efforts, Jamie as the Ag Commissioner, to just run through brick walls when they were put in front of them. And that's why Kentucky is at the lead, because of Jamie Comer. So when he came to Congress, I said, Jamie, you take the bill. You know as much or more about this as I do, and I don't need the credit, and you haven't ticked anybody up here off yet, so you take the bill. So he did, and he's doing a great job with it. The last thing that I wanted to say real quickly after going through those bills is my family cares about good food. And we direct market beef. We enjoy doing that. As Dennis said, I went to college for engineering. I started a company. It's actually a virtual reality invention that I made that lets you feel three-dimensional objects that don't exist. But this is so far out there on the bleeding edge. I mean, this is virtual reality and 3D printers in the 1990s is what this was for. And then I came home to the farm that my wife grew up on. We bought the farm using the money we made in virtual reality, bought her family's farm, and got back to reality. But now I tell people I've gone back to virtual reality. I'm in Washington, D.C. But my daughter, she's 14, and the kids at Lewis County Middle School all kept asking her, have you met Trump? Have you met Trump? Because they knew her dad had some connections, and they figured at this point she would have met the president, but she hadn't. So last Christmas, there's a White House ball that goes on every year. And trust me, my wife was excited to go to this one, because the only 4 I've been able to go to before, there was a Democrat in the White House. And so my wife really wanted to go to this White House ball. It was only for congressmen and 1 guest. But I asked her if I could take our daughter instead, and she said I could. So I took my daughter, Sarah, in the hopes of meeting, so that she could meet President Trump. So she shook, and this just goes to show you how much we like food at our house. She shook my hand for 3 days, practicing how to shake a man's hand. She's 14 years old and smallest kid in her class. Actually, she's the second shortest. She's very excited. She outgrew 1 kid this summer. But she goes up to the president and grabs his hand. And by the way, he likes to do the thumbs up, because I don't think he likes to shake everybody's hand. But she grabs his hand before he could give her a thumbs up. And she doesn't let go, and she looked at him. She said, Mr. President, could you make school lunches great again? Thanks to the Neltners for making these dinners great again. Good night.
Our next speaker, really, I wouldn't even have to introduce him because I know all the farmers know him. But I will introduce him for the rare individual who hasn't met him or been involved with him. It's Mr. Warren Beeler. He works for the Governor's Office of Ag Policy. He's a graduate of Western University. He majored in animal sciences there. He worked 16 years for the Kentucky Department of Ag. Warren has judged livestock shows for 42 years in 43 different states, so he's gotten a lot of windshield time. He's been awarded the Western Kentucky Agricultural Alumnus of the Year Award, the Harold Workman Leadership Award, the Thomas Poe Cooper Award, Kentucky Pork Producer Hall of Fame. He is known as Mr. Agriculture to most of us farmers because Warren's passion for agriculture and his willingness to spend times that I know he would probably rather be on the farm, supporting ag, defending ag, getting things done for ag that really needs to be done. And I'll tell you, Warren, right now, we really appreciate what you do for ag because it's just hard to find somebody who has the energy and feels so passionately, other than farmers, about what we do to get the word out and rub elbows with people who can make a difference for us. So with that, would you all welcome Warren Beeler, Governor's Party.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here, and Don, thank you for having me. Loved nothing like having a congressman that has a soft spot for agriculture. Because in Frankfort, Washington, we worry way more about what they do to us than what they do for us. And plain and simple fact is we have to have people that are watching that. I always start by asking this question, no matter where I'm at in Kentucky, do we have any basketball fans in the room? You know how it is. I think they vaccinate us when we're little in the nursery, give us 20 cc's of I love college basketball, and we can't help it. We're just eat up with it. But we'll get you in trouble from time to time. The other day, about 4 years ago, I was at the Dairy Nationals livestock show there at the fairgrounds, and I walked in there, and the Ayrshire Queen was 6'4". I couldn't help myself. I walked right up to her. I looked her right in the eye. I said, "You play basketball?" She looked down on my bald head and she said, "Yes, sir, I do." She said, "Do you play miniature golf?" I said, "Well, matter of fact, I do, yeah." I'm from Caneyville, Kentucky. Anybody know where Caneyville is? We're 50 miles west of E-Town. We got a four-way stop that nobody stops at because we all know where we're going. The other night I came in, it was 9 or 10 o'clock. 3 people at the four-way stop. I like to have never got through there. You know what I'm talking about. I hog farmed there for 20 years in Caneyville until it got so good in December of '98 that my wife told me, "You got to get a real job." Hogs got to 10 cents a pound. Break even was 35. I had 1,200 sows. You can imagine the hole we were digging. So Commissioner Billy Ray Smith gave me a job at the Department of Ag, and I owe him the rest of my life. He's a wonderful commissioner, loves agriculture like I do, and I owe him. I worked there for 16 years, and Angela, part of my crew, the co-worker that I worked with, that is the aquaculture, and part of this Kentucky Proud dinner tonight. And then after 16 years, 2.5 years ago now, people started calling me, people that in agriculture you listen to. And then the governor's office called. So I go over there once, I go over there twice. The third time I go in with the governor. And I said, "Governor, I'm not a political guy. I'm an ag guy. I'm an animal ag guy." I said, "I've got the perfect job." I was over Market News at the time. I said, "I'm really not looking for a job." And the governor said, "Warren, that's why you're here." Thought that was a neat answer. Then I noticed he had this sleeve thing on his hand. I said, Governor, how'd you hurt your hand? He said, oh, I tore that ligament in my thumb. I said, how'd you do that? He said, I was playing freeze tag with the kids. Now, I remember, I raised 5 kids myself. I remember running from the barn, pushing them down in the yard so I could beat them to the house. Not that the governor would do that, but you know if he hurt his thumb playing freeze tag, he was trying to win. And I'm okay with that. And I said, Governor, you have to understand about us in agriculture. We're very, very low maintenance. You don't have to do anything for us. Just don't do anything to us. And I'll never forget, he said, is there anything I can take away? And that was the perfect answer. And I said, Governor, this tobacco money has blessed our state. We've now invested $575 million in agriculture. Every part, every aspect of agriculture. We've grown agriculture at Farmgate by $2 billion. I said, Governor, this money has blessed us. It's helped agriculture farmers help themselves, agribusiness, rural communities. It's worked. I said, if you're going to take this money and put it on the pension or in the general fund, I don't want this job. He said, Warren, why would I take the only money in Frankfort that's making money? And he's never touched it. So I took that job, scared to death, you can imagine. But I will tell you something. I'm 63. I wish I could take you with me and show you what I've seen the last 2 years. I've learned more the last 2 years about agriculture than any 2 years of my life. And it's amazing what I see. This Kentucky agriculture is huge and very diverse. You know, in the mountains we've got forestry and timber and things. It's a $9 billion industry all by itself, and we never think about all of us cutting timber every 20 years off our farm. It's part of the business. We got cattle and horses in the middle. Huge. In the west where I'm at, we got corn and soybeans and hogs and chickens. And then just in the last few years, we've got a local food industry in every community. Plain and simple. It's changing. Agriculture changes fast. This trend is that we have to produce more with less. We've lost 22 million acres of farmland in the last 10 years. They were telling me, Dennis was telling you, how the numbers have dwindled here in Campbell County. What we see is we got a population of 6 billion people in the world right now. They tell us by 2050 we're going to 8 or 9 billion. That tells us in the United States we have to produce 70% more than we're growing right now by 2050. Can we do that? There's only one ag. And all ag, whether it be urban, conventional, rural, whatever you want to call it, needs to be producing at the very highest level. Agriculture's coming to town. Agriculture's going inside. Agriculture in the future is going to be everywhere. It has to be if we're going to reach that 70%. Today, the truth be honest with you, we do a great job of farming. Producing more with less, at the same time being great stewards of the land. We take care of the water, we have to, and we're great caretakers of the animals. You can't farm any other way. Next year is just as important as this year, so we grow our land as we grow our crops year after year after year. We're to the point that science says yes and the public says no. The answer is no. We do a great job of farming. We do a pitiful job of telling people about it. And so what happens to us is like we were talking earlier. The person that messes up makes the paper, and because we have this huge disconnect, everybody reads that and thinks everybody does it that way. So we've got to do a better job of telling our story and how we do it. This local food movement, in terms of telling our story, is I think the avenue in to the people who really need to know. Like tonight, for example. Commissioner Quarles says in almost every speech he gives that 40% of the people believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Anybody believe that? That's not true. Plain and simple fact is we got a lot of work to do in terms of reconnecting and teaching the public about agriculture and about what we do. Let me tell you about Kentucky agriculture just real quickly. Who would have thought 25 years ago that chicken would be the #1 industry in the state? We're getting ready to build 200 more chicken houses. Let's take a test. How many days does it take to hatch an egg? 21. We haven't changed that. We'd like to move it to 15. It's going to be hard to do, probably. But 21 days. You know how many days it takes to make a 5-pound bird now? 42 days. From the time the egg hits, less than 70 days, we got chicken. We got chicken. Plain and simple. You know what's great about the chicken barns? Is that it's allowed young farmers to get back into business. What happens with the chicken farming is you don't own the chickens, you don't own the feed. You don't have to worry about the market going up and down or the feed going up and down. You furnish the building and they pay you for your work. Plain and simple fact is we did 10 loans the other day in ag finance. 7 of them were chicken barns. And those farmers were 19 to 26 years old. When the average age is 60, that's a good thing. I was on a dairy farm the other day where we helped the man buy a robotic milker. Cows milking themselves. My dad milked for 41 years. I took him over there. He was looking through the window. Oh, Bessie comes in. She's got a computer around her neck. They know who she is. They know the shape of her udder. Washes her udder off twice. Milk, nobody around. Milkers automatically go on her. Milk her 3.2 times a day. She gives 12 more pounds of milk a day. My dad, 92, looking through the window. Didn't have to go to the barn to milk cows. I had to put his tongue back in his mouth. Oh, Bessie comes in and she gets milk and she's the boss cow and she thinks I didn't get enough to eat. So she goes around and comes in again. Hey, no, by the computer, Bessie, you done been milked. Psst, kicks her out. If she doesn't come in, it texts you on the phone. Go get Bessie. Bessie hadn't been in to be met. This is agriculture. This day and time. This is science. This is what we do. Now, being a hog man, I must tell you, when I married Miss Dee Dee, I was 5'9", 177, a lean, trim, good-looking dude. You can see that. Bob your head. Yes. She fed me biscuits and gravy. I didn't do nothing but grow muscle. I woke up one day, 5'9", 220. I was like an NFL running back. Then I went to work for the state. I kept eating like I was farming. You got so fat you couldn't see my eyes. Now I'm back to 230 something now. I'll never see 177. I got too much muscle for that. You see? When I got in the hog business in 1980, we produced a 220-pound hog that had 1.2 inches of fat and a 4.5-inch pork chop. We were losing 4% of demand a year because there wasn't a doctor in the world wasn't telling you quit eating that stuff, it'll plug your arteries. Too fat. Today we produce 420,000 hogs a day, weighing 275 at the same amount of time, 6 to 7 months, 50 pounds more at the same time, with 7,500 fat and a 6'8" pork chop. You see how we adjust and how we adapt to what this consumer wants out there. You get on the beef side, we're the biggest beef cattle state east of Mississippi. We've got 1 million cows. We do beef cattle really, really well. And it's just gotten better and better and better and better. Now, we'll tell you, the other day my wife, Dee Dee, she thought she was young again. She goes to Indianapolis to run a 5K with her sister from Chicago. She gets about a mile into the race and she tears that plantar fasciitis ligament at the bottom of her foot. She's crippled. I got to go shopping for the first time in 36 years. I have drove the cart, but I've made no decisions. I go in there and I go up to the meat case and I look down and there's nothing there but Angus hamburger. Now you tell me the difference between Angus hamburger and Holstein hamburger. It's called marketing. You know what happens when you pick up that Angus hamburger? You make the cattle black at the farm. You make the black cattle at the stockyards $5 to $7 a hundredweight higher than the red cattle of the same quality. Plain and simple, my point is we're more connected to you from the meat case as farmers than you would ever dream. And guess what? Through this local food thing, we're going to do it more and more and more. What you want is what we make. You get over on the grain side, I'm old enough to have followed a mule through a tobacco patch. I remember him doing real good going away from the barn. I remember him tearing it all up coming back. I remember my dad coming from the barn and giving us both an attitude adjustment. It worked perfectly on me. It didn't help that mule a bit. I was on a farm the other day where a man was farming 19,000 acres, almost by the square foot. You soil test the ground in a 2.5 acre grid. You take that data and you plug it in the equipment that's GPS controlled. You go over a poor piece of ground, you put less seed. You go over a great piece of ground, you put more seed. You make a trip around the outside with the tractor and you turn the steering wheel loose. GPS auto steer. First row's crooked, they're all crooked. But you don't double a spot and you don't waste a spot. Managing nutrients as they lay in the field. This is agriculture in 2018. This is where we're at. Plain simple fact, what's most interesting about my job is all the things in agriculture we don't know yet. When you think of chia, what do you think of? Chia pet. Cereal companies want chia seeds as a health food. So we started tobacco money. We have a project with chia in Simpson County. Sumac. We've been trying to kill it for 100 years. We find out now with the UK study, when you squeeze and extract, you get all kinds of tannins. Tannins that's all in all kinds of diet foods. Mine starts Monday. Not Monday, is it? The most interesting one is what Congressman was talking about, is hemp. We approved 12,000 acres this year. We got 75 processors who have moved in here and want to buy it. We've done 3 projects. We've done one with seed, one of the products. That's hemp hearts, that's hemp proteins. That's the snack food companies. That's hemp oil. We got one in Henry County, Victory Hemp, who's doing great. Really making money and getting along. We done one with fiber. Anything you can make out of plastic or steel, you can make out of hemp. Google hemp car, and Henry Ford comes up. 1 acre of hemp will produce as much paper as 4 acres of trees. Well, we've lost 22 million acres. We're trying to produce more with less. And it takes 20 years to grow the trees and 150 days to grow the hemp. Doesn't make all kinds of sense. The only controversial one is the CBD. And the whole world's taking CBD. There's something to it. There's medication to it that is helping people. It's the only part is controversial because it has a little THC in it. And the only thing I've ever seen get controversial in the Ag Committee was hemp. And I'll never forget. One of the senators asked this guy from the CIA that was testifying for hemp, he said, "Can you get high smoking hemp?" And he said, hemp has 0.3% THC. 0.3%. Marijuana has somewhere between 15 and 30% THC. Can you get high smoking hemp? He said, well, I guess you could, but you'd have to smoke a telephone pole in an hour. You're not likely to get there. Plain and simple, it's not going to happen. The CBD is the seizure medicine. My mother-in-law is dying of pancreatic cancer. And I will tell you, I'd heard everybody say, stage 4 cancer people, it made them feel better. So I got up the nerve to go ask. I thought she'd think I was hemp crazy. But I'm her 3rd favorite son-in-law out of 3, so I didn't have far to fall. So I said, Mimi, I want you to try this stuff. They said it'd make you feel better. She said, you know, the doctor's already prescribed hemp oil for my stomach. So I went and bought her a bottle, about this big. $120. I'd have given $1,200 if it had helped her feel better. The only thing we changed about her was the CBD. She was sick in bed, couldn't get up. 3 weeks later, she flew to Texas to visit her mother, who was 99. God put all these plants on this earth for a reason. Why can't we just get out of the way and let this thing run its course and work and do what it's supposed to do? It's all the things we don't know. We had a guy show up the other day, had a product called Artemisia. Artem Flow is the name of the company. He had a PhD from MIT, just like Congressman Massey. He had this product. It's the only medication for malaria in the world. The reason it came to Kentucky is because you raise it like tobacco. But it wasn't interesting because it was malaria. We don't have much malaria going around. It's because they use this same medication in other countries, like we use chemo here to treat cancer, except you don't lose your hair and you don't get sick from it. Why have we not figured out a cure for cancer just yet? It's all the things we don't know that make it so interesting to me. This local food thing is amazing. My mom wore her hips and knees out. Been over a roll of them brown butter beans. We're the only people in the world like them things, but we loved them. Plain and simple, the whole world's figured out there's a difference between eating out of a can and eating out of the garden. And they want it. The problem is, it's hard work. People come with stars in their eyes, Don. They want to set the world on fire, and they come in there, and they get out there, and they don't want to spray it. They don't want to do anything, and the weeds are taking it, and the bugs are eating it up, and it's 99, and the sweat's running off the end of your nose and down your back. It's easier to go to Kroger. So when you get it, like we got it tonight, you need to so appreciate it. We're up now to 160 farmers markets in 111 counties. It's everywhere. We've gone from 12 USDA processing plants to 27 USDA inspected processing plants in Kentucky. We've built over 100 high tunnels just in the mountains in the last handful of years. We got certified kitchens scattered all over this state, stopping that perishability. The problem is we raise in the summertime, and you know what? You can freeze that corn, it's just as good in December as it was in July. Certified kitchens, freezing, canning, or even in Letcher County, we got them cooking meals for senior citizens and people that are hungry, using local product through the certified kitchens. The thing we're missing in local food is getting it to the next level, that middle bit of process. We don't need cabbage. A head of cabbage, nobody know what to do with it. We need coleslaw in a bag. Lady told me in Louisville the other day, Beeler, we don't know what a roast is. We need cooked, sliced roast beef ready to put between two pieces of bread. These certified kitchens, that middle infrastructure processing, gets it consumer ready. And that's what we're missing in this local food movement. It comes down to it. Man came in from Ashland the other day. He said, I want to build a greenhouse, Denmark style, on top of the mountain. 2 acres. Hydroponic on wheels, spreads out as it goes through the building. No bugs, no weeds, no nights, artificial light. 24 hours a day. Producing lettuce in 22 days, 2 semi-loads a day. One of the guys in my office said, that guy's not a farmer. That's what this new farmer looks like. Could be right in the middle of town and get it done. We have community gardens scattered all over the place. It's the most wonderful deal that I need to tell you about down in Simpson County. Boys and Girls Club got raised beds everywhere. I'm talking about kids that be in trouble, kids that be in big trouble. But agriculture has pulled them in, and they absolutely love it, eat it, sleep it, something to do after school. And it's wonderful. We got a school farm, 4 acres, Glen Roberts in Wayne County, Monticello. The kindergartners plant it. The middle schoolers weed it. The high schoolers harvest it. And they feed it back to the school, $20,000 worth of product. All coming off of that, and you don't think they're not tied to agriculture. That's amazing. We got farm to fork meals like this one happening everywhere. Introducing people back to agriculture. We got CSAs where people are lined up to get fresh product. Communities supported agriculture. We got farm tours like you see in Campbell County, where it's fun to get to go to the farm. We're a novelty to most of the people. We got agritourism sites like that. Who would have ever thought the man with a robotic milker would have people pull up? When he started, this was wonderful. Cheney's down in Bowling Green. He would he put him on this old wagon with an Oliver tractor that wouldn't pull the hat off your head. And he'd go downhill all the way down there and take them down to this barn and bring old Bessie in again, old Bessie. And he set the kids on a bale of straw. He'd reach in there and grab old Bessie and squirt the kid on the front row, and it's worth $5 a head. That's more milk than Bessie would give all year. Plain and simple. This agritourism. What really woke me up last week, I was at the Fraser History Museum in downtown Louisville. You know, we're a draw in agriculture when they dedicate in that place where we're taking the Bourbon a whole 3rd floor to agriculture. Going from a plow where we followed a mule through the tobacco patch to precision farming, where we farm by the square inch. Plain and simple. We got ag awareness things. Grow it, eat it, wear it. Ag in the classroom, everything, selling ag to the public, and it's not enough. It's not enough. plain and simple. The biggest issue in agriculture today, both rural and urban, is not livestock, it's not crops, it's people. We need people. Plain and simple fact is this. When you think of agriculture, you think of farmers. 1 to 2% farm, but 15% work in ag. How do we get these FFA kids to stay in agriculture? My son Ben had 5 kids. My son Ben has a PhD in nuclear engineering from Georgia Tech. Did his postdoc at UC Davis and UC Berkeley. What a waste. I love him, I'm proud of him, he got every bit of his mama's genetics, I didn't have nothing to do with it. But you just think what that boy could have done for agriculture. I think about it all the time. Proud of him. Not much demand for nuclear engineers in Caneyville. He's in Idaho. Plain and simple, how do we grow that next generation and get them back on the farm? How do we give them passion? I think you do it through 4-H. I think you do it through FFA. We got a couple sitting right back here that was president of 4-H and president of FFA last year. Young ladies from Campbell County. I couldn't be more proud of what they bring to the table. There's nothing you can put them in that they can't do. There's nothing in agriculture they can't do, but how do we keep them? How do we keep them, give them that passion and love that we have? We got to have people, plain and simple. There's only one ag, and the more rural and the urban understand each other, the better off we are. Plain and simple, we've got to understand that we need agriculture doing all it can, and the marketplace will be more wholesome, healthier, and more filled up all the time. Kentucky agriculture has increased farm gate cash receipts by $2 billion in the last 15 years. The question mark for me is, how do we do it again in the next 15? And that means it's got to have urban, we got to have rural, we got to have agriculture basically everywhere. And we got to tell our story, connecting the big public to the farm. That we're doing a good job. We're doing agriculture better than we've ever done it in history. Producing more with less, still being great conservationists of the land, of the water, and caretakers of the land. You can't farm any other way. You won't be in it very long, plain and simple. So I will tell you this. We've never done it so good. We're here. But we learn something every day. We adapt and we adjust and we change to fit this consumer who demands it. I tell every group, you take us for granted. You go to the store and there's 10 varieties of everything. You never think where it comes from. So please, please, next time, pick up that fork. Thank a farmer. Thank you for letting me come and be part of your evening. This is wonderful.
We want to give Warren something for coming up and visiting with us and talking about ag. We got him a big basket of ag. Just what he needed.
Like coming to Campbell County and shopping for the wife. You know what I mean?
That concludes tonight's events, but however, there's some people that we would like to mention and thank that helped make this all possible. Of course, the Neltner family and their wonderful venue here. Like I say, we couldn't have picked a better place, and I hope we get it more often to do these kind of events for you all. It's a perfect example of a farm family adapting, changing, and to keep the farm in the family and to keep it productive and viable so the family don't have to go off the farm to work. So that's admirable, and we thank you, Kevin, and your family for furnishing it tonight. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank our cooks tonight who actually made all these products that we grow into something very tasty, and that would be Stephanie Zink and Tasha Hofstetter. And we're grateful for the support from the following individuals: the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, of course, Campbell County Cooperative Extension Service, who provides all the education that we can want and then some to farm right. the Neltner Farm, of course, the Campbell County Conservancy as part of this event, supporting it, the Campbell County Farm Bureau, Campbell County Conservation District, Stonebrook Winery, Beacon Printing, Heritage Bank, Advantage Tent Rental, and that should cover it all. The people, let's see, that should do it. I got everybody. Oh, 12 Mile Creek Winery, we don't want to forget the Joe Schultz and Bethany Lubers. So these are all individuals who gave their time to make this event a success. And I hope you all enjoyed yourself this evening, and I hope you all learned something about agriculture and what it means to your community, and hopefully you'll use agriculture more than you would have by knowing that all the good food that we had tonight is available and just find it on the farm. So thank you for coming. Y'all have a safe trip home, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.